All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Jasmine Marrow. I'm the Director of Nonprofit Strategy here at Candid, and I'd like to officially welcome you to our work session. All right. So next slide. Just a couple of notes and reminders as we get started. First, we will be recording today's event, so don't worry if you'd like to go back and review any of the conversation from today. You'll receive an email with the recording in just a few days. Next, we've blocked off some time at the end of today's presentation to answer your questions. So if you'd like to submit a question, just look at your control panel off on the side of your screen. So you'll find a questions box right there and just type your question in and send away. If you only see the questions header and not the box, select the arrow to the left to enable the questions box. And we hope to answer all of your questions today just during the event, but if we're unable to get to yours, please rest assured that we're going to follow up with you individually and make sure those get answered. Next slides. So I'd like to also introduce our co-hosts. So joining me today is Nico, our Senior Director of Nonprofit Programs, and Madeline Kardos, our Marketing and Communications Associate.
Jasmine, thanks so much. Thanks so much for welcoming us. This is Eva speaking. Great to be with you all. I'm just really excited to make the case for why the nonprofit profile and the seals of transparency matter for your organization. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And Madeline will be our wonderful guide for updating the nonprofit profile and show you a lot of the tips and tricks on how to do it.
Yes, quite happy to be here.
Wonderful. All right, so I'm just going to walk you through what to expect for today. I'm going to kick us off with some exciting news, and then next, Eva is going to share what it means to refresh your profile and how that information gets out into the world. Madeline is going to give us a live demonstration, and excuse me, and then we'll have some time for questions and answers. All right, next slide. I want to kick us off with some exciting news. Next slide. You may have heard that Foundation Center and GuideStar have come together to create a single entity, and that is called Candid. Next slide. We are really excited about this. Combined, we have a total of 88 years of expertise and millions of pieces of data that we want to share out into the sector. Next slide. So the why around this is that we believe that a thriving social sector is essential for a thriving society. And more than that, we believe in the importance of solutions that are for the sector to be by the sector. Next slide. So with Candid, nonprofits, foundations, and donors can all be on the same page by more collaboration. So I'll close with just offering some contact information. If you'd like to learn more about how this new entity is forming and what you can expect, please feel free to go to candid.org and also check out these social media handles. And of course, you can always continue to find both organizations at guidestar.org and at foundationcenter.org for all of the things that you've been used to coming to us for. And with that, I'm going to pass it along to Eva.
Thank you, Jasmine. Many of you have joined us today because you have heard that the 2019 Seals of Transparency on GuideStar are here. And I want to assure you that our joining and becoming part of Candid means that basically your seal of transparency is really now more relevant than ever and may potentially be seen by more people than ever. So we want to give you a little bit of extra help in getting to the newest seal. And for those of you who may be wondering, why your organization should have one at all, I obviously would like to make the case for its importance. So first, let's talk a little bit about why doing this is worth your time. The 2019 seals are a simple signal that does a few things for your organization. First of all, they help you share fresh information with potential supporters. That could be potential donors, funders, potential volunteers, potential board members. Next, the seals of transparency obviously help you get recognized for actually sharing your information and for being transparent. Once you earn a seal of transparency, you can use that image on your website and in print publications. And then finally, the seals also help you tell your story in a particular way, in a way that puts you on a level footing with many other organizations in the sector and helps you be seen as part of the sector. And they also help you reach a broader audience than maybe your own website or your own materials would. So let me tell you next about how that works. So, GuideStar, as part of Candid, we are still a hub for nonprofit data. And that information comes to us in two ways. One is through the IRS and the reporting that you all do to the IRS and sharing that publicly available information. And the second is through the profile program, which is what we're talking about here, the seals of transparency and the nonprofit profiles. And this is where you as an organization have an opportunity to connect with GuideStar directly and to provide information that is beyond your tax form and that really goes to the heart of your work. Now, that information about your programs, your operations, and your financials goes on the GuideStar website as part of your nonprofit profile and gets seen by over 10 million visitors there. And it also goes other places, which I'll talk about next, to our partners and the audiences that participate on their platforms. So you might think about it this way. If this little figure, and I'll call him Walter, stands for about 100,000 better informed donors, funders, and other stakeholders, then by having your information on GuideStar, you have access to an audience of about 10 million people. Now, obviously, if that was it, that's already a lot, but GuideStar has an extensive network of partners where your data, the information you share with us, with your permission, travels to all those partners. And these are community foundations, grant management system vendors. These are some financial institutions, technology companies, and social media platforms. If you want to go beyond the generic names, here's obviously a list of some of the specific partners that we work with, and you'll recognize some big names here. The biggest and most popular fundraising platforms, the major companies and the way that they have their charitable activities like Amazon and Amazon Smile, financial institutions, community foundations, and also top news outlets use GuideStar for information about nonprofits and the nonprofit sector. In this way, you obviously have the folks that might see your information on GuideStar. You also have a lot more people that might be viewing aspects of your information in those other platforms. With Facebook alone, obviously being one of the biggest social media companies out there, it's estimated that over 150 million plus people have connected to a nonprofit page on Facebook alone. We are committed to really making sure that the work that you do on your profile not only sees the light of day on the GuideStar nonprofit profile page, but also is shared on those broader platforms as well. So that being the case, let me show you some of the specific ways that that information might show up in those other platforms. And it's a little bit subtle because the whole idea is that these platforms really build their experience for their viewers and their users, and they're using aspects of this information to do so. So for example, we've partnered with a Charity Navigator over the last 2 years, and specifically last year, we've been sharing gold and platinum seal level information on Charity Navigator directly. That's seen by over 11 million annual visitors. And obviously there's a lot of giving activity that specifically happens through Charity Navigator. I will say that GuideStar is really much more about information, and many of our partners specifically facilitate the donation and the gift activity. And so here you see just sort of that we're sharing some of this data that you will have provided on GuideStar with Charity Navigator viewers. We also have for a long time partnered with Amazon Smile, and some of your information, including obviously your organization name and the mission statement and some of your programs, is incorporated into the Amazon Smile kind of giving experience. And Amazon looks to GuideStar to provide some of that initial validation for making sure that legitimate registered charities are being part of Amazon Smile. Next, we obviously are also partnering with Facebook, and there you see kind of off on the side a little bit of an information box about your organization. Clearly, you may be having a lot of information on Facebook yourself, but then there's a little bit of an informational section for potential donors, again, serving that function of making sure that it is the legitimate organizations registered with the IRS that are part of the fundraising experience on Facebook. We have seen, in some cases that information obviously generate a lot of attention. This is the example of an organization that worked on reuniting children and their immigrant parents. Obviously, that was in the news a lot last year, and as a result, it got a lot of attention for that organization and a lot of support for that organization's work on Facebook alone. Now, we know that the idea that there are potential supporters out there is very exciting. But before we move on, I do want to rain on the parade a little bit. We know that there are a lot of supporters out there, but the fact is giving levels as a percentage of disposable income haven't actually budged in the last 40 years. So that's kind of a tough fact. Why is it that giving has not grown more significantly over the last 40 years? And there are lots of causes to that, but we also have to look at ourselves as a sector for potential ways that we may be able to help move that number. And so there was a great study done by the Camber Collective called Money for Good. And there they looked specifically at some of the factors that might inhibit donors from giving more. And I just want to highlight a couple that I think the profile really directly speaks to and addresses. So one, there's a kind of perceived, distrust or a lack of trust in nonprofits and the work that is done. And in many cases, donors also feel overwhelmed or ill-equipped to make a good decision about where to give and who to partner with, because there isn't necessarily great kind of comparable information out there. So, there are a few things that we can do to change that. So there is other research that says, how could you budge these perceptions? We have looked at the new give.org report that talks about, the number one factor in establishing donor trust is a better understanding of a nonprofit's accomplishments. Donors obviously also look to some cues about the reputation of an organization and the financials of an organization. There are also some reasons potentially for distrust, including a lack of honesty and transparency. Now, by earning a platinum seal of transparency, which also means that you are gaining a bronze, silver, and a gold seal, you are addressing some of these factors and issues. There is another really exciting research work that is independent of GuideStar. It was done by academic researchers from Villanova University and University of Wisconsin. And they found that the seals of transparency specifically make a difference for nonprofit organizations. Now, many of you may already believe that being transparent is just an important kind of the right thing to do for a nonprofit organization, that's a practice that you have no matter what. But it's also exciting to know that it's both the right thing and the smart thing to do, meaning that organizations that have earned a seal of transparency do tend to generate more in contributions after earning a seal. Now, I do want to say I cannot promise that all of you who earn a seal will a year later, reap a 50% increase in contributions. I don't want to be on the hook for that. But it has been shown, looking at a large cohort of organizations, that those organizations that had a seal, on average, did get more in contributions a year after earning a seal than those organizations that did not have a seal. And so that's pretty exciting because it's, a pretty concrete benefit that not only the seal, is that signifier, but that potential funders, donors, and others do pay attention to it. So without maybe further ado, we'll get into the how-to of this, and I'll hand it over to my colleague, Madeline.
There we go. Hi there. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Eva. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Just a moment here. All right. Perfect. Okay. Thank you for holding for a slight second there. So thanks to all of Eva's context, we can now jump straight into how to earn a 2019 seal of transparency. So just a very brief refresher. These are the different seals that you can earn. So there's bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. Bronze focuses on very basic information, particularly about your programs. Silver focuses on your financials. Gold goes into your goals and strategies, and platinum basically shares your progress and results. So during today's demo, we're going to briefly touch upon bronze, silver, and gold, and we're going to focus more on platinum because that's where we've added new fields for 2019. Now, before we totally dive into things, I want to take a brief step backwards for those of you who are totally new to our system. I want to show you how to gain access to your profile. It's a process we call claiming your profile. So the very first step is you're going to want to create an account on GuideStar. So you're going to go to our homepage, www.guidestar.org, and you're going to look in the top right-hand side, and you're going to click Create Account. You'll be prompted to fill out a few web forms, and then you'll be on your way. One best practice with creating an account is to use an email address associated with your organization. So for example, if I were creating an account, I would do madeline.kardos@candid.org. Okay, that's all you need to create an account. If you already have an account, all you have to do is go to our homepage and go ahead and just click Sign In. Up next, you're going to find your organization. You can either use your organization name, your EIN, or your headquarters. Then we're going to ask you to quickly verify your email address, make sure you are who you say you are. So you're going to head into your email client, you're going to click a link to confirm, and then you're going to be taken to step 3. So in step 3, you have 2 options here. You can either click Update Nonprofit Profile at the very top of the web page, or you can click the very smaller update underneath, thanks for verifying your email, you're all set. Okay, almost there. The next step is to click the blue Get Started Now button. That will jump you to the last and final step. You're going to see a web form such as this one appear on your screen. All you have to do is fill in the required fields here. So you're going to see website and then the terms and conditions. You're just going to briefly check those off and then click Submit Request. Now, a note on this, if you use an email address associated with your organization, you're going to be approved instantly. That's due to some back-end magic. Don't worry if you don't have an email address associated with your organization. For example, if you have a Gmail, if I was, putting in Madeline Kardos at Gmail, our stakeholder support team, who is fantastic, is just going to approve your request, and it takes them about 1 to 2 business days. So just hold tight. A best practice on adding managers here is you can add as many managers to your profile as you want. So we recommend adding as many as you need. And one last tip, if you don't see an email from us, please check your spam folder. Sometimes our emails drift into there and they get a little lost. Okay, if you need more help, we have a video tutorial on this exact process. Of course, we are going to be sending the slides and recording of today's event within the next couple of days. You can always look back on all of this good information. Okay, we're going to take a very slight pause here before we dive into our demo for a poll. And we're just going to ask you, what is going to help you earn a 2019 seal today? Is it all new? Do you want us to start at bronze? Do you want us to review what's needed for silver? Do you want us to focus in on gold, or dive into platinum and what's new for 2019? Or maybe there's something else, and in that case you can write a quick note in that questions box for that something else. And I'm going to give you guys just a couple more seconds here to fill this out. All right, I'm going to close it in 10 seconds.
Thanks for doing this, Madeline. I think it's going to really help, obviously, maybe guide a little bit where we spend our time in the next demo section. We just want to make sure that you really get the most out of it.
Yeah, thank you, Eva. And it looks like the majority of folks want to spend time on platinum and what's new for 2019. That makes complete sense. A decent amount of folks do need to start at bronze, so I will start there and briefly touch upon bronze, silver, and gold going through, but we'll focus mostly on platinum. Thanks all for sharing that information. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to jump straight into our demo. Here we go. So when you're updating your profile, the very first place you're going to start is our homepage. You're going to go ahead and click Sign In. Don't mind me, I'm just going to sign in here. Had a slight email address change. Here we go. Okay, so what you're going to do is click Update Nonprofit Profile. This can be found on any of our web pages, and it will jump you into the system. So once you've been approved to manage your profile, you're going to see a page just like this. You're going to go ahead, find your organization. I'm going to go to Foundation Center, or Candids for now, and click Edit. That jumps to you. Oh yes, hi Eva.
Madeline, that's a page that you'll see once you've been approved to manage an organization. And so if you don't see the name of your organization listed yet, then either there's still a little bit more on our end we need to do to approve you. And you may all be wondering, why all these hoops of approval and so on and signing in. And I just want to say that I think it's important to know that we are doing our best to make sure that organizations and people that represent an organization are the only ones who can modify a profile. Obviously, we don't want others to be putting in the wrong information on your organization's profile. And that's why we do need to have some due diligence up front to make sure that the legitimate representatives kind of get access and can modify, and not someone else. And so that's the reason for some of the multiple steps there.
Yeah, thank you, Eva. Just so you know, the page that you're staring at, this is your summary page. You're going to see this kind of navigation bar here, this lighter blue banner. And some things to note very briefly, you can see your organization name, your seal level, and then your progress to earn a seal level. And this is a great way to see if you're missing anything. So let's say bronze is only at 96%, you know where to go and fill in a required field. And one note is that the seals build on each other. So if you want to earn a platinum seal, bronze, silver, and gold all have to be 100% before you can earn platinum. So just keep that in mind as you're going through our profile. So like I said, this is our summary page. You can see your seal level here. You can see the fields we send to Amazon Smile. And most importantly, you can assign more profile managers to your profile. So you have the power. You can assign folks to come on in and help you update. Okay, a very brief note here, confirm and publish. So you're also going to see this kind of red publish changes now button at the bottom as well. These are the buttons you're going to click when you're ready to make all of the changes within our system public. So when you're going through here and you're editing, it's going to save it in the back end. You want to make sure you click confirm and publish and go to this page at the very end. I'll show you this page in just a moment, but I want you to know where this is first. Benefits and rewards, this is where you get images of the seal once you've earned them, as well as a widget that you can put on your website. And this is how you can view your own public profile as it's currently showing to the public. It's great to have open while you're updating your profile so you can see what it currently looks like and see if you need to make any changes. Okay, without further ado, this is how you navigate the different sections of our profile. You'll see the seals on the left-hand side here. It's a drop-down menu. We're going to focus on these today. Just note, there are some optional sections. Optional, but highly recommended. So this is where you can connect your social media channels. You can upload photos and videos. You can put your organization's demographics information. You can check off if you're following board best practices and additional documents. So for example, if you have a Form 990 you want to upload to your profile, this is the place to do that. So just know we don't have time to go over those today, but those are there for you. Right now we're going to jump into bronze. So I'm going to bronze here. I'm clicking the first field, names and contacts. Bronze is really easy to fill out. It takes about 15 minutes and it's really basic information. You have most of this stuff already on your website. So I'm just going to briefly go through here and tell you what's required. I'm not going to focus too much because I know we want to get to platinum. But just know that when you're in here, the things with the red asterisks, these are required fields. So you need to fill these out in order to earn a bronze seal. You are going to see there are some optional fields. So right here, also known as doing business as, completely optional. But if you are known as something else, you're definitely going to want to put that. So for example, we just joined forces, so we have our previous names listed here. Okay, very briefly touching upon the different sections of bronze here, we first want to know who is your primary contact. So if someone were to contact you out of the blue, who do you want their email to be directed to? If your fundraising contact is different, you want to list them here. Ours is different, so we have done so. Addresses. We're looking for your mailing address. If you have a physical address, an international address, you can list those as well. We're also looking for your phone number, fax number, and international phone number. Then we have founding information. All of this is optional, but you can choose if you want to put the year you were founded, if you have a letter of determination you want to upload, and hopefully not a letter of dissolution. Donation information. So this is really important because our partners like Amazon Smile and Facebook, they use this information to send you your check. So you want to make sure that this is filled out correctly. We're looking for the legal name of your organization, the EIN, and the payment address if it differs from your main address. So you can either check off this little box if it's the same, or you can fill in your payment address. Leadership and staff, we're looking for basics here. We want to know first and foremost, who leads your organization? We want their first and last name. It's great to give them a title. And I like putting a LinkedIn profile information and a short biography. That way, when people are looking at your profile, they can learn a little bit more about your CEO or president while they're there. Okay, you have options for a co-leader as well as listing all of your staff. We've listed our senior staff here. That is optional though. We're looking for your board members. First and last name is all we need, but it's great to put the company or organization they work for and their start date. There's options for a co-chair if you have one, as well as listing the rest of your organization's board. I'm gonna scroll on through here. We have a large board. Okay, brand information, yet again, something that we love to send to our partners. You can see here that Google, Amazon, and PayPal all receive this information. Okay, your logo. You want to upload your logo if you have one. If you don't have one, you can just click my organization does not have a logo. It's totally fine. You can enter a tagline and your website. If you don't have those, you can just check those. Okay, your mission, very brief. We're only looking for 1 to 2 sentences. If you have a longer form mission statement, that's going to go in the gold seal. That's where the longer form content is. So just keep it brief here. Programs and maps. So this is really fun. So we require 1 program, but we encourage listing your top 3 to 5 programs because this shows what you do every day. It's basically the work that you're most proud of. So for each program, you're going to give it a program name. You're going to give it a brief description. We're looking for maybe 1 to 2 paragraphs. And just a note on this longer form, make sure that there's a space in between your paragraphs so people aren't met with a giant wall of text. You're going to do a target population, a budget if you want, that is optional. And then over here, you're going to add a location. You can select up to 5, and this is the area that your program serves. So you can do a city, sorry, you can do a county, a city, a state, and on the international level, countries. So a best practice here, if you serve more than 5 areas, go with the larger geographical size. So if you serve, for example, more than 5 counties, go with the city. Okay. You can see here that we've listed our top 4 programs. I'm going to scroll through them here. Last but not least is categorization. Keywords. We're looking for 5 to 6 keywords that describe your organization and the work that you do. So for example, if you were to go to Google and put in 5 to 6 words, what would bring up your nonprofit? And then NTEE code, last but not least. These are self-reported, so you can't go wrong with these. You're going to choose a code that best describes your organization. You have the option for so you have a code and then you have a subcode, which is a little bit more specific. If one code doesn't cut it, it doesn't describe your organization, you can add a secondary or tertiary if you'd like. Okay. When you're done editing, you're going to go ahead and click the Save button at the very bottom. That's going to save all of your good work.
Quick second, Madeline.
Yes.
We had a couple of questions that are, what is an NTE code?
Okay, that's a great question. So let me actually expand this for you so you can kind of see what this looks like. These are categories that you can choose to best describe your organization. So you can see here they're pretty general, like housing, shelter, crime, human services. Let me just find ours for a second here, make sure I don't click the wrong one. So you're just going to choose one that you think best describes your organization. Does that answer the question?
Hopefully it helps. I will say that that these are codes that are typically have been assigned in the past by the IRS, that they essentially describe kind of roughly the issue area that your organization works on, and along with keywords that you yourself can select, as well as these codes. In some cases, they help organize the information about different types of organizations. So there are over 1.6 million nonprofit organizations that are registered with the IRS. And as you might imagine, that's a lot. And to that point of donor confusion, they're trying to find someone who perhaps works on, health issues or on particular diseases. And so the codes essentially help to just add additional kind of identifier identifier information about your organization.
Thank you, Eva. And something I realized is another good way to think about these is as like your cause area. So for example, if you're on GuideStar and you're searching for different types of organizations, these are the categories you're going to choose. And just sorry, keeping an eye on time, I'm going to move us forward to silver. Hopefully we will address more questions at the end of today's webinar. But very, very briefly here, silver is all about your financials, and you have two options. Number one, you can upload an audited financial statement, or two, you can manually fill in some basic financial information. And a note, we're looking for financials from within the past 2 years, so from 2017 or 2018. You can see here that we've uploaded 2 of our audits, and we've also manually filled in this information. For you, it's optional. It's either or. So you can either upload your audit or you can fill this in. If you're manually filling it in, we're looking for your fiscal year first and foremost. We're looking for your revenue. A note, if you fill out a Form 990, this pulls directly from it. So just look that up, and it's going to be on the bottom of page 1 and top of page 2. So you don't have to do much spelunking through tax forms to find this information. We're going to ask you for your expenses, program, admin, and total expenses. A note, you want to make sure that this total lines up with your Form 990. So if you have additional expenses, for example, fundraising, you're going to want to list that. We ask for your assets and liabilities, so total assets, liabilities, net assets, or fund balances. And last but not least, there is an optional section here, but it is highly recommended, and this lists your top sources of funding. Okay, Jasmine, are there any questions here before I move on?
Not for silver, you're good to go.
Okay, I'm gonna spring into gold here, and yes, that was a spring pun. Gold is all about 5 charting impact questions, and these were created by GuideStar, the BBBY's Giving Alliance, and Independent Sector. It took us a year and a half to come up with these, so a lot of thought went into it. And really what we're looking for are your goals and strategies. So diving in here, the first thing you're going to see is a problem overview. This is optional. It's a very brief section to summarize the problem or need your organization's working to address. So we're looking for 1 to 2 sentences, nothing huge here. But the meat of this section is right here. So these 5 short answer questions. And if you're looking at this and you're thinking, oh my God, 3,000 characters, that's a lot. Relax. we don't require you to hit 3,000 characters. We're looking for 3 to 4 short paragraphs. And yet again, with longer text forms, you want to make sure that you break it up with spaces in between. That's just the best practice. When people are online, they're kind of scanning pretty quickly. So give them little tidbits. And here are the questions. So they're pretty self-explanatory. If you have done a recent grant application, if you've done any strategic planning, if you have an appeal to donors, all of these documents already contain this information. So you don't have to, reinvent the wheel here. Just grab those documents and try and mush that content into here. So number 1, what is your organization aiming to accomplish? Number 2, what are your strategies for making this happen? Number 3, what are your capabilities for doing this? Do you have an amazing staff? Do you have a committed board, stable finances? What is it that makes you capable? How do you know if your organization's making progress? So for here, we're looking for your top 3 to 5 key indicators, and you want to give yourself a longer horizon here. So, maybe think 3 years in the future or 5 years, by 2025, we want to serve X number of clients. That's what we're looking for here. And then lastly, what have you accomplished so far and what's next? And the most important thing here is, of course, what's next? People want to know what you're up to next and how that they can help. Okay, I know I cruised through that pretty quickly. I'm going to pause for one question. Jasmine?
The most burning question that I'm seeing is, what if you have not a 2019 seal yet and you're at gold or silver or anything else? How do I make sure, even if I'm not ready to get up to platinum, that I can have a 2019 seal now?
That's a great question. And basically what you're going to do, if you already have a seal that is not 2019, you want to do what I just did. You want to go through bronze, silver, and gold, whatever you filled out, and make sure that everything's correct. So particularly in bronze, make sure your programs are still up to date. Your CEO is still up to date. In silver, you're going to want to make sure that your finances are from either 2017 or 2018. That's a requirement for having a 2019 seal. And then for gold, you want to review your answers. Make sure they're still current. Make sure your metrics are still correct. And then you're just going to publish. You're going to go here, and I can show this to you now. You're going to go to confirm and publish. Let's give it a moment to load here. Give you some load music. Okay. You're going to check off these program terms here. And then we do actually have donation permissions. This is where you opt in to our partner network. So if you want your information to go to Amazon Smile, Facebook, etc., you're going to toggle this on. And if you want a donate button added to your profile, toggle this on, and then you'll click publish now. Once you do that, within 10 to 15 minutes, you'll start to see your changes appear on your profile, including the 2019 seal. All right. Speaking of which, let's go into platinum. So platinum's really exciting because it's all about your year-over-year results. And what I'm actually going to do is go back here because we've already filled this out, but I want to show you guys what this looks like from the top. Excuse our many metrics. Okay, so when you first go into the platinum section, you're going to see a screen such as this one. And you have the option to view a PDF. And what this is our common results catalog. I don't have time to go into it today, but do know when we send our follow-up email, we'll be linking this. So you can definitely take a look. And it's basically just a giant list of metrics that are already in our system. There are different categories that you can search by, and it will give you kind of a good idea of the type of metrics that you might want to use for your nonprofit. I'm going to jump back in here. We're going to go ahead and search for metrics so you guys know how to do all the searching. So first, you can use our keyword search. Just know it has a little bit of word association built into it. So if you put in the word kid, it's going to bring up child, adolescent, infant, baby. So if something wonky pulls up, just know that's what's happening on the back end. You can also filter by service strategy or categories, and these pull from the common results catalog. So if you found a section you really liked, you can filter it here. Now, let's say you found a metric, but it's not perfect. Number of animals rehabilitated. Maybe it was, number of animals released into the wild again. You can go ahead and add your own custom metric. So you're going to click that button. You're going to go into here, and just note that we have a pretty common format that we're looking for. We want, number of blank who blank. So for example, we don't want something vague like, number of children in poverty. We want something a little more specific. So number of children in poverty clothed, right? We want that action. What have you done to help them? So you're going to go ahead, you're going to click, I understand that I'm using a custom metric and it's not comparable to those in the field. You're going to click add. It's going to give you some similar ones, just in case you missed it in our catalog. If you want, you can choose a similar one, or you can go ahead and use your custom metric and click Add Metric. You're going to go ahead and see that in the Your Selections box and just click Continue to move on to the next section here. I'm going to scroll down. I'm sorry if you're all a little seasick while I do the scrolling. Come on. There we go. You're going to see your metric here. You're going to go ahead and click Add Details. Now, this is where the fun begins. So this is where our new fields are. I'll get to them in just a moment. But just so you know, in order to earn platinum, you need one metric with the most recent year's worth of data, so 2018. So for example, I'm going to put 100, looks like I've done this before. You have an option to add context notes. So this is optional, but it really does give your metric a little bit more of an explanation. So you can either describe, maybe the data itself, maybe 2017 was just a knockout year. Maybe 2017 was not so great, compared to normal. What is it about your data? Or you can talk a little bit more about the metric itself. What type of children, what type of clothes, etc. You can add a year all the way back to the year 2000. We like to see about 3 to 5 years worth of data. That way it shows a really great trend. So for example, if I put this in, you can see There we go. You can tie it to one of your programs, and this is entered in the bronze seal. So for example, if this related to our knowledge tools, I'd go ahead and click that. You can also tie it to a population served. So like I said, children. I'm going to go ahead and put children here. Now this is the new stuff. So what's new is the type of metric and how you define success. So for metric type, we have 5 different categories. We have inputs, which describes the resources that you use. So an example here would be for, number of donations. That's a resource going in to your nonprofit. An output. So this is describing exactly what your programs do, your activities and your reach. So for example, number of women served. An outcome, this is describing the effects on the people or the issues. So for those who you serve, for example, number of clients satisfied with their experience, that would be an outcome. Context, this is describing the issue we work on. So for example, number of veterans. And lastly, other. If this is describing something else, you can go ahead and click other. I will go ahead and click output for this one. And defining success. So you have 3 options here, and this basically describes the overall trend that you want people to see for each metric. Do you want them to see increasing? The numbers are going up over time. Do you want them to see decreasing? The numbers are going down. Or do you want them to see that it's holding steady? And a quick example of each one. So, increasing usually relates to a positive output, number of clients served, you want that to go up over time. Decreasing is usually minimizing a negative effect. For example, thinking, number of veterans on the street, you would want that to go down. And then holding steady, this could be for a metric that you're already knocking it out of the park and you want to keep it steady. So let's say you already serve 99% of women in your area. You want to hold that steady. You want to keep that 99%. And you want people to know that that's your goal. Okay, last but not least, we have ready to display this on your profile. You want to click Yes Display. That will earn you a 2019 Platinum Seal. At least one of your metrics has to say Yes Display and be on your profile. You can click No Do Not Display. That kind of just saves it on the back burner for you for when you come back. It will not be displayed on your profile. Or you can choose Display, but note that it's no longer tracked. And this is great. If you've got data from a couple years ago that you want to share, you can of course do that, and we highly recommend it, but you won't earn a Platinum Seal for that because it's not recent information. So I'm going to go ahead and click No Do Not Display just because I think our manager would get mad at us. I'm going to go ahead and click Save here. But Jasmine, before I go on, are there any questions so far?
Yeah, so a couple of Platinum questions. One is how many years do you need to display in order to earn Platinum?
Good question. So you only need 1 year, and it has to be from 2018. Although we do recommend doing 3 to 5 years to give people, that trend.
Great. There's a ton more questions if we wanted to transition into the questions. Otherwise, I'll hold off until we're ready.
Okay, then I will show one last feature here, and I think Eva can speak to this a little bit more than I can. We do have a completely optional section in Platinum, and it's for uploading an external evaluation. So if you go to Platinum and you click External Evaluations, this will jump you in. Eva, would you like to say a brief word on this?
Sure. This is a new option for organizations to essentially, provide a document. It does have to be a PDF file, and we will, accept up to 20 files if you have a lot of evaluations. And the intent here is to really help your organization, well, essentially add credibility to some of the metrics that you're sharing, right, by sharing a document like this. Now, we have gotten a few questions about what's intended here. We're typically looking for an evaluation done by someone outside of your organization, so an evaluator or an expert. Sometimes these are academic researchers as well. But what's important is that it's someone independent of your organization. And they typically look at the quality of the programs or the work that your organization might do. We don't have other restrictions at the moment about this. Evaluations really come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. So we really just are opening the door for you to share maybe information that your organization has already invested in and has already gathered. And this is another way to kind of help surface that for potential supporters. So that's this new option.
Thank you, Eva. And I do want to make a note. We do have handouts in today's webinar. One of them is a guide on all the fields required to earn a 2019 Platinum Seal, and the other one is the Common Results Catalog. You can go ahead and give those a download. If for some reason it's not working for you, we will be sending those resources in our follow-up email in the next couple of days. So if you already have your profile open and you're starting to go through it, we have those resources for you. I'm going to go ahead and head back into our PowerPoint here. Quick note.
Sorry, before you do, Madeline, I do want to say that there were some questions where, folks are trying to work with the form here and are experiencing some difficulties. You will notice that there's a little smiley box in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. That is basically a way for you to get additional help. And it's both a way to access additional resources that you might need, or during business hours, it's a way for you to actually connect with a person who might be able to help you. You see the sort of the photos of our lovely stakeholder support team helping folks kind of while they're in this experience. So that is available to you when you're here so that you can get the help you need.
Thank you, Eva. That is a really great point. They are lovely. I highly recommend talking to them regardless. Okay, so I will jump back in here. I'm going to go through these slides. Just know I already went over this in the demo, but if you're looking back on the slides and you want to know what was she talking about, I've listed these for your reference. Going through. We went through a lot today. Okay, of course, my reminder is don't forget to publish your work. That will earn you your seal and get that shiny new seal on your profile. And of course, you can celebrate your work by going to our benefits and rewards section and looking for our participation logo and widget and our outreach toolkit. That's how you get images of the seal to put on your website and share in social media, press release materials, etc. Okay. Do we have time for a quick poll, Jasmine?
We're a little tight on time. We've got about 6 minutes left and a fair amount of questions.
Okay, so let's jump straight to questions in this case.
All right. So one question that's come up quite a bit is how often do you recommend coming back and making these changes?
That is a good question. I can take this one. So once a year at the minimum, and that's to make sure that your financials are from within the past 2 years and that your platinum metrics are up to date. But I'd also do another check-in like halfway through the year around, maybe June, July, just to make sure that your programs are looking good, they're all current, your gold information is accurate, etc. So twice a year is great. Maybe the beginning of the year and halfway through the year if that works for, your process.
And I agree with that, Madeline. We're not trying to have you live on GuideStar every moment of the day. On the other hand, if you do have a significant change, so for example, if your address changes or your mission statement changes or something major like that, especially since that's information that's shared pretty broadly, I would encourage you to update something like that obviously right away. But for some of the information, your strategies, your goals, really they may not be such significant changes. So it's just a quick review and of that.
Wonderful. All right, so now we've got a couple of silver questions. First, can you talk a bit about the relationship between uploading an audited financial and filling in the information that's there?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So it's an either or section. So you can either upload an audit and then you can earn a 2019 Silver Seal, or you can manually fill in your information. So if you don't have an audit, don't worry, you just manually fill it in. If you want, you can go above and beyond and do both like we did, but it is not required.
And then just an additional note, the only document that you're going to upload there is an audited financial. If you have other types of financial documents, don't bother uploading them there. Just go ahead and put that information in the text boxes instead. So we've got a couple of platinum questions. The first being, is this by calendar year or fiscal year that you're going to enter that information?
I think in the case of platinum, we're looking at calendar year information primarily. Now, if it also is supposed to reflect the way that you track things. So if you track your programmatic metrics by your fiscal year, and that's how you talk about them with your board, then I would encourage you to sort of reflect, obviously, the latest fiscal year, the latest year that they apply to, and then put a context note. Perhaps Madeline pointed out that there's a space for that to say that. I will say that the system really isn't, if you're, I would put the year end. So it is important to earn the 2019 seal. We're looking for the latest available information, and we do expect that to be as of the year end 2018. So that's how I would note it in platinum.
Okay. We have a couple of questions around just deadline. So let's say you have a 2019 gold seal right now. How long do you have to get a platinum seal?
Well, you have as long, you basically have about a year until we release the 2020 seals. So there's not a timer on your data other than the annual kind of release cadence. So in 2020, probably in the first quarter of 2020, we will release the 2020 seals. And at that point, you obviously can't earn 2019 anymore. So essentially, I would encourage you to I'm someone who likes to get things done, so I encourage you to get things done, but we do recognize that platinum sometimes requires more consultation across teams. And so folks do find themselves working on this, first within their internal team and then publishing. I will also say that typically there are some high points of activity for who might be seeing your information throughout the year. So obviously kind of around, especially the giving season, so November, December, even October, these days it starts, that end of the year timeframe is when there's a lot of activity around visitors to GuideStar, visitors on different websites for fundraising. And so it would be, I think, advisable to have that information in there before giving season.
Wonderful. So we want to be mindful of your time. So anyone whose question we didn't get to here, just know that we're going to reach out to you personally and check in. If you have any other questions, feel free to go to the Help Center in the meantime. And we just want to let you know about a couple of events we have coming up. So April 9th is a webinar all about getting your board members to support your fundraising. And then April 18th is around stewardship strategies through the Foundation Center and getting foundation buy-in. So thank you so much for your time today, and happy updating.